Testing, testing.
Yeah, I heard. Did you play it also? I don't want to earlier, but I'm so hard. Oh, yeah. I really want to. Okay. But you're supposed to dress up now. I'm dressing up. The Canadian tuxedo. What? I apologize. Average Red Bull. Hey Sam, yeah. Dang it.
Yeah.
All right, everyone, I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting into order. We'll go ahead and go to the first item on our agenda here, which is approval of the cycle 8 minutes. Do I see a motion? All right, motion from Chris. Do I see a second? All right, second from Anna. All right, and is there anyone who objects to moving towards a vote on the minutes? All right, seeing none, we will go ahead and drop that poll into the Teams channel. Reminder that this is our first attendance vote of the evening. All right, that poll is now up in the Students Assembly Teams. Do you approve the cycle 8 minutes? Yes, if you do, no, if you do not, and abstain if you would like to stay out of this discussion. Another reminder that our quorum will be 25 for this evening.
Oh, is that your video?
All right, we are still seeking one more vote on the cycle 8 minutes, so please get that in as soon as you can.
I promise you.
All right, is there anyone who has not yet voted on the cycle minutes that would wish to do so? Okay, I'm seeing one more vote roll in. And so I'm going to allow 15 more seconds for this vote, but then we'll look to close it. All right. I will say once again, is there anyone who has not yet voted? Oh, Kevin? All righty. Good. See, I haven't seen that shift. Perfect. All right, anyone else? All right, seeing none, I will go ahead and move to close this poll. And with a vote of 31 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and 0 abstentions, this motion clearly passes. All right, yeah, let's keep it going. All right, and so now we'll go ahead and move on to the next item of our agenda, which is our guest speaker, Marissa Lux, a legislative correspondent and intern coordinator for the Honorable Jerry Moran, United States Senator from Kansas. And you'll have about 10 minutes and then we can go into a Q&A period with time extended.
Perfect, thank you.
Hi, everyone. Wait, do you want me to talk in front of this or? I'm sure you guys can hear me. Let me know if I need to talk louder. But my name is Marissa Lux, and I'm intern coordinator and legislative correspondent for Senator Moran. I am a past SGA member at K-State. So I just graduated from K-State, and kind of give you a little background of my student government history, since you guys are in student government. I started as a senator for arts and sciences, and then was our communications director for all three branches. And then my senior year was the campaign manager for the student body president campaign. So love student government. So thank you for being senators here and putting in a lot of work for the university. I'll just go ahead and go through this little presentation, and then at the end, if you have any questions, just let me know. First, I have a video.
For me this summer as a sophomore going to be a junior, I really sought an experience that was outside of my comfort zone.
I had a couple of friends that I knew through Student Senate that actually had interned on the Hill, and one of them had interned in Moran's office, and she talked about it all the time.
And then when I thought of the opportunity of maybe interning here, I jumped on the opportunity as soon as possible.
What I've enjoyed doing most so far in the Senate is getting to know the staffers here for Senator Moran.
It's one of my favorite parts is just sitting in on a lot of their meetings with people with different ag interests, talking about their issues is definitely what has been the most enjoyable for me thus far. Just seeing how some of the staff handles the meetings was really cool and a great experience, great learning experience overall.
I think what I've enjoyed most about working in the Senate was really this idea that you're getting a look behind the curtain about what's going on Capitol Hill.
I've really enjoyed taking constituent phone calls because Kansans call and they're really passionate about these issues, so they take the time out of their day to call us, just writing them down, getting all their contact information, and relaying that back to the senator. I got to attend breakfast with Senator Moran along with a lot of my fellow interns, and that was really cool to get to hear personally from him, and he wants to get to know you and what your goals are.
He talked about, being an intern during the Watergate scandal. So, that was fascinating, just that human aspect, that Senator Moran started out like one of us.
I think for me, what's been most surprising, or something that I didn't necessarily expect when starting working on the Hill, was how my involvement working within Senator Moran's office has really humanized politics in a way that I didn't really expect.
And Senator Moran's staffers, it's really like a family in there, which is really cool to be a part of.
What I've enjoyed most would be getting tours. As far as that goes, being able to walk around the Capitol freely, as well as getting more knowledge about the Capitol to constituents of Jerry Moran.
I heard Vice President Mike Pence will sometimes come and shake people's hands in the Capitol, so I'm hoping I'll get lucky.
So much to do in DC. I've hit all the major stuff, the monuments, some of the museums that people talk about.
Another really meaningful experience for all the interns is that several interns as well as staff, got to run a 5K. We got to meet, shake hands with Secretary of the Army, Mark Esper. And that was really meaningful for all of us because it really speaks to what this internship offers, which is the opportunity to meet really influential people within Washington that have so much impact on what goes on around us. Something that I'm sure I'll take away from my experience interning for the senator.
So that's kind of a little summary about the internship in a video. It's on our website if you want to go back and watch it. But our internship is really interesting because it offers a lot of opportunities for any interest. You all probably have some sort of interest in government, student government, but we've had students intern who are on the pre-med track, pre-law track, policy, not policy, advocate. As an intern, and I was communication studies major, so I went just with an interest in going to DC and seeing what it was all about, and then ended up working there. So no matter your interest or your post-grad plans, it would definitely be a good opportunity. Some of our main intern tasks, it's kind of hard to group them because every day on the Hill is a little different depending on what's going on in the world. But the main task would be, as an intern, you are in charge of the front office. So you're in charge of greeting Kansans that come in on family vacations. They're coming in to meet with the senator, different lobbying groups. So you'll meet with them face to face, and then also constituent phone calls. Sometimes people call the office wanting the senator to vote a certain way. And that's our job to kind of relay that on to the senator, or they'll be calling with casework issues. And so our office also helps with like passports. So if you're going on a vacation and you need your passport and it hasn't arrived yet, our office can help. And so that's a whole other side of the office that's kind of non-political, just the helping Kansans part of it. Another fun thing, probably my favorite, is giving a Capitol tour. How many of you have been in the Capitol before? Okay, yeah, so a few of you. And so most of those tours are given by office staff and interns. And so you kind of get a full access pass to the Capitol when you're an intern. So you can go anytime, 24 hours a day, and kind of explore, and then also show it to Kansans that come in. And then if you do have policy interests, you can help with specific projects. So when I started out, I was interested in immigration issues. And so I worked with our immigration staffer a lot and attended briefings, wrote up memos on that. And so you can really get plugged in if you want to have more in-depth internship opportunities. And then also, if you're interested in press, we do have a whole comms team. So you can be a press intern. The senator is the ranking member of the Senate Veterans Committee. So if you maybe have an interest in veterans, you can go work as an intern in the committee. And so we have a wide range of opportunities. And then 4 is just day-to-day operations, the mail, opening the office, kind of just making sure the whole office is working. The senator was an intern, and so he definitely knows that the office wouldn't run without interns. So it is a really, really fun experience. At the top, we have the session. So we do have spring, summer, and fall sessions. So looking ahead, whatever your schedule maybe looks like in the future, you can come for a semester, maybe take classes online, and kind of treat it as like a study abroad in DC. And then we also have our summer session. The summer session is a little shorter than the rest. The semester, obviously longer, but both are great times to go. Our summer applications are open right now. They close on March 19th, so right after spring break. And then our fall early decision applications are open. So if you maybe want to plan ahead and already apply for the fall, those are open now on our website. So then how to apply? Pretty simple: resume, cover letter, transcript, and 2 letters of rec. On the cover letter, that's kind of where you get to personalize it and put a policy issue or somewhere of interest and how you think the senator, what you think it could be improved on. And that's really open to you. So that's kind of where you can personalize it to yourself. And then just some fun pictures. So our internship is 9 to 5 or 9 to 6 if we're in session, but we also get to do a lot of things outside the office. So right now we have a fellow from the DEA, and so we took an office field trip and got to go to the DEA, which was really cool to be able to see a whole different side of the government. We also have been to the Pentagon, and so being able to take different trips like that is a really cool opportunity. We also do different events. This is Statuary Hall, so these are interns from Congressman Mann's office, so we do a lot with the whole Kansas delegation. And then you do this bottom picture on the right, you do get sworn in officially as an intern, which is kind of cool and something a lot of people don't know. And then you get to go on a Rotunda Dome tour with the senator. And then some other fun pictures. We do have a softball league in the summer that you can join as the office. And so there's a lot of team bonding. I would describe our office as really close-knit family. We do a lot together, and kind of whatever issue area you're specifically working on, you normally overlap with another staffer. So definitely a team atmosphere. And then I just have my contact information. I am one of 2 intern coordinators as well as being a legislative correspondent. So you can feel free to email me. I do have some brochures I'll leave in the SGA office and some business cards that have more information. But right now, if anybody has questions, I'd be happy to answer anything.
All right, we have about 7 seconds left. So can I go ahead and get a motion for time extension? Motion from Chris? Yes. 5 minutes. Oh, and I also wanted to say if we could get everyone to state their name and their constituency in their intro, that would be preferred as well. And so I see a second from Anna over here as well. Brilliant. All right, so we'll go ahead and extend time by 5 minutes if there are no objections. All right, seeing none, time is extended by 5 minutes. And do I have any questions in the room? Okay. So I don't see any questions currently. Will you be staying after your guest speakership or? Okay.
Well, I'll be staying for a few minutes right after this.
Okay, yeah, I was just gonna say, if someone may not want to ask a question in this forum and maybe could just like catch you in the hallway on your way out, that might be preferable. But are there any other questions in the chamber here? All right, seeing none. Well, thank you very much, Marissa, for coming to see us. All right. And now we will go ahead and move. Oh, do I see a motion from Sadie? Huh? Oh, lovely. All right, so we will go ahead and advance to the next item on our agenda here, an officer report from our student body president, Sadie Williams.
Okay, so we have a very, very special guest with us today, our own graduate Senator Bander's daughter. And not only is she the daughter of one of our beloved student senators, but she is also the newly elected 3rd grade class representative at her elementary school. So can we please give a huge round of applause for our very own Yara Al-Mohammadi?
Hi, I'm Yara Al-Mohammadi, and I made it to student council, and there were 14 people who wanted to do it, and I got elected in the top 2. And I'm so proud of myself because I tried my best, and some people didn't want to do it because the last time that we did it, they just quit. So yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and Sadie, did you want to speak on the certificate that was just received?
Oh yeah, and I printed an official certificate of recognition on behalf of the Student Senate for her accomplishments and in her ability to lead her classmates, despite some of them not wanting to. How dare they? But you got it. Yeah, anyway, so that was like a fun thing. Sorry guys for crashing the first part of my officer report. In addition to that, we're steadily planning for State Higher Education Day. And so thank you to everyone who applied. And we will be having a meeting tonight, immediately following Student Senate's conclusion, adjournment, that's what I was looking for. And we're gonna kind of go over logistics. So if you were applied and were accepted into the State Higher Education Day, that'll be next Wednesday, then just hang around after Senate. We'll keep it really brief. It's not gonna be like another hour or anything, but we're just gonna give you some logistics and next steps and things leading up to next Wednesday. And so that's my main update for today. Does anyone have any questions?
Do we have any questions for Sadie? All right, seeing none, thank you very much, Sadie.
Anytime.
All right, Sam, I will now be going to my officer report. So could you please take the chair?
How many, 2 minutes?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do 2 minutes.
Okay.
Ready to go?
Ready to go?
Awesome. All right, so for my Cycle 9 officer report here, I just wanted to go ahead and remind everyone of the University Governance Visioning event that's going to be happening this Friday on the 10th from 1 to 5 p.m. at Barron Center in Slauson Hall. There's going to be refreshments provided, and the purpose of this sort of visioning event is to gather feedback from the university community on what we believe shared governance should look like at KU. So if you'd like to offer an opinion on that, feel free to drop by Barron Center there this Friday. I'll go ahead and also send the flyer through the listserv later tonight for those who are interested. The Student Senator Workshop that I mentioned last cycle is going to be scheduled for March around the closure of candidacy declarations for Student Senate. This is to allow people who are interested in Senate but have not yet gotten involved at this point to learn more about the organization and how they can make an impact on campus through our organization. We met with the Chancellor last Monday as well and highlighted the Senate resolution in regards to supporting trans students on our campus and advocacy against SB 12 in Kansas's legislature. We are going to be collaborating with the Vice Provost of DEIB to send a message of support to KU students in regards to this. We also touched on Election Day excused absences, which the Chancellor supports students in seeking this through the University Senate as we decide sort of the best future solution for creating student accessibility to voting on Election Day. And Danae, our Government Relations Director, is going to be heading up that project. And finally, I just wanted to go ahead and address this as it's something I've sort of seen throughout the week and questions I've received and in sort of behavior I've seen. Just a lot of anti-student affairs and like student fee entity sentiments that are coming out in these past few weeks. And I really just want to say that we need to stop this, because when it comes to sort of like our interactions with student affairs, like we're not always going to agree on what we think is best for students on this campus. And most definitely we shouldn't agree. We should continue to have that debate as we look into like what we think is going to be best for KU's vision for the future.
Hi, I'm sorry, your time is up. Can I get a motion to extend speaker time? Motion from Sadie, can I get a second from Evan? How much would you like to extend your speaker time?
Could we do about 1 minute?
Got it, 1 minute.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say it's very easy to demonize people who, you know, are in higher up positions, and maybe especially if we don't understand fully like the picture of what's going on in those positions. But at the end of the day, like student affairs and our student fee entities are the ones who are making Student Senate's dream projects come into reality and are continuing those projects across year by year, even when we're outside of this space. And so I just wanted to go ahead and address that at the end of my officer report here today. Are there any questions? All right, seeing that, thank you. Our graduate student body president was not able to make it tonight, so we'll go ahead and advance to our next officer report, the Chief of Staff, Sam Sokolov. And Sam, how much time would you need? About minute 30. All righty.
Everybody, all right, so I'm going to quickly acclimate replacement senators. So do we have Jason Daly here with us tonight? Jason, raise your hand. Thank you. Great. Ian Alfredo Sartorius, graduate senator. Can you raise your hand? Are you here? Ian is not here. That's okay. All right. Sarah Green, engineering senator. Are you here? Glad to hear it. Okay. Cass Casmus, College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. You here? Is Cass here? I did just see her. Okay. Is she a junior or is she underclassman or upperclassman? She's a sophomore. Okay. And then is Sarah Smith here? Sarah, are you an underclassman or upperclassman? Upperclassman. Okay. Awesome. All right. I'm going to motion then to vote to acclimate Jason Daly, Sarah Green, Cass Casmus, and Sarah Smith to the Students' Assembly. Could I get a second for that motion?
I see a second from Kevin. All right. Is there anyone who objects to the acclamation of these new replacement senators? All right, seeing none, you are officially acclimated. Welcome to Student Senate.
And then with regards to conduction of my job responsibilities, we are continuing. Legislation tracker is almost fully updated again, and I'm going to amend the Constitution as such. There's an amendment bill as well that will create carve-outs for certain student groups that were excluded in the previous constitutional rewrite. We're just making edits, amendments, and whatnot to that. Also, I'm making sure that the Elections Commission is now fully staffed. We have 5 people on the Elections Commission. It's very exciting. They've been meeting regularly. I've already met with them twice. Hopefully, they'll meet in the next 2 to 3 weeks as well to make sure that everything's set up and ready to go. But you can talk to Bryn Monteith about any elections questions. You can also email elections@ku.edu if you have any questions about running, any concerns. She's a great resource and has been a super awesome person to have on this commission. So very exciting stuff. Thank you.
All right, any questions for Sam? All right, seeing none, we will move forward. Thank you very much, Sam. And how many senators were just acclimated again? 4. Okay, so that will raise, yeah, quorum numbers there. All right, so next we'll have an officer report from our treasurer, Turner Steele. Is Turner here or is he still up in fee review? Up in fee review. All right, can I get a motion to move on to our outreach director, Angela Davis? All right, motion from Kevin. Do I see a second? All right, second from Blake. All right, anyone who objects? Seeing none, we'll move forward. Angela, you will have 1:30.
Sweet. Hi, everyone. Good to see you. Thank you all for coming out tonight. If you don't know me, my name is Angela. I'm a senior and I'm the outreach director. So this past Wednesday, so a week ago, we had our first outreach event of the semester, which was our hot chocolate event. It went really well. We had about 50 unique interactions and we passed out flyers about Senate generally, ways to get involved. And then these flyers about elections. So I know many of you are probably going to want to run for re-election. Everything you need to know about filing and deadlines and whatnot, it's on this flyer. I have a big stack of them, so come find me. I will also leave some in the back for those of you who just want to take a picture of it. If you want to take one home, whatever works for you, it's fantastic for me. Yeah, and we've decided that given how well the hot chocolate event went last week, we're going to go ahead and do one every single council's night and just keep getting the word out there about Senate generally, elections, encouraging people to get involved. And also, in line with that, we're going to revamp tabling materials. So anytime we're out and about, we have the same promotional stuff every time so people know who Senate is, who we are, and just having a concrete line of communication. So yeah, any questions?
Any questions for Angela? I see a question, but we only have 13 seconds on, so can I get an extension? 1 minute, and then Blake, I see a second from you. All right, is there anyone who objects to a 1-minute time extension? I didn't think so. All right, so we'll go ahead and extend time by 1 minute. Kevin, what was your question? Could we also get the catch box too, Kevin? Could you also state your constituency?
Hi, Kevin Barnes, freshman student senator. I was wondering, are you going to continue tabling out here, or do you have any plans or ideas or thoughts on tabling with hot chocolate at, say, Wesco Beach, for example?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Right now, I have everything booked for just out on Jayhawk Walk. However, there have been many discussions about tabling, taking over the KU info kiosk or going out on Wesco Beach. Just logistically, it's kind of harder to get stuff out there because we have to talk to catering, and catering has to move things out there, and then we have to oversee things. And so it's just logistically more difficult. However, that we don't have to have food at every event. There are ways around it. But if you want to help out, I'd love to chat with you.
Chat with me after.
Sweet.
Lovely. Any further questions for Angela? All right, seeing none. Thank you very much, Angela.
Thank you.
All right, we will now move to the next item on our agenda, an officer report from our Internal Affairs Director, Nathaniel Garcia. You'll have 1.5 minutes, or how long would you need? 5 minutes. Okay, we'll go ahead and add 5 minutes here.
Okay, so it's been brought to my attention, a lot of people do not know how to use the website. So I wanted to just come up here and offer everyone a tutorial about how we can properly use the website. So all you gotta do is search KU Student Senate. It's top result. So here we are, the KU Student Senate website, and we got right here, we got our cycle, all of them, and where we're gonna be meeting, what we're gonna be doing for those cycles. So then you click here for the menu, and then we can go to branches of government, legislative branch, and then we have a full list of all our senators and where they represent and who they represent. And you can just click it and see who every single person represents. And then if we go to documents and records, we have the Constitution here. So if you have any questions about the Constitution, please come here first. Then we have probably the most important part, our meeting minutes and voting records. So this has a list of every single piece of minutes from all of our councils and assembly meetings. And yeah, so then I want to, let's see. Oh, that's the one that's currently happening. If we go to Students Assembly, you can click the little link. It'll take you right to the PDF, and then you can literally see how all of you voted and which way you voted. So yeah. And this is a resource open to everyone. So just wanted to let everyone know. Thanks for your time.
All right, thank you very much, Nathaniel. Are there any questions for Nathaniel? All right, seeing none, we'll move forward. Thank you very much. All right, and I don't believe I see the treasurer or chair of finance yet, so can I get a motion to move those items to the bottom of our agenda? I see a motion from Sadie. I see a second from Bander. All right, is there anyone who objects to moving these two officer reports to the bottom of our agenda? All right, seeing none, that is so moved. All right, so now we'll move on to our consent agenda here next. Is there anyone who objects to any item on the consent agenda? All right, do I see a motion to vote on the consent agenda? I see a motion from Bander. Do I have a second? All right, I see a second from David. All right, is there anyone who objects to moving to a vote on the consent agenda for cycle 9? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and start that vote in the teams. Yes. All right, so that poll has now been posted in the Students Assembly channel. Do you agree with the consent agenda? Yes, if you do, no, if you do not, and abstain to stay out of the discussion. All right, and I'll let that poll run for about another minute and a half here.
Oh, those are.
Are you looking at
I'm looking at the one that was sent by this one. Yeah.
And that's not again. All right.
State doesn't have these lights.
All right. All right, has everyone voted on the consent agenda that would like to do so and is able to do so? And are we good on votes? Amazing. All right. Seeing none, I will move to close the consent agenda vote. All right, and with a vote of 30 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and 0 abstentions, this motion clearly passes. Playing with a lot of lights back there. Well, the other attendance vote will just be whatever bills are coming in throughout the meeting. And I do want to bring up a point of information in regards to something that was just brought up to me in regards to the agenda. There is something in the agenda that was sent out through the listserv that says KUVSA Bill 58. However, this bill no longer is applicable to our current agenda here. It was something that was withdrawn before we sent out the official Students Assembly agenda. So my apologies for that error when I sent the email. All right, and with that, we'll go ahead and move on to the next item on our regular agenda, which is the Elections Commission confirmation vote. Sadie, would you like to come in and speak on that?
The final person for the Elections Commission who's going to fill in that 5th seat is Catherine Magana. She is a senior. She has extensive experience working within the Dole Institute, is very apolitical, doesn't have a stake in the elections at all, has past experience, like understanding like elections in like a more like state government and like federal government type of way. So she'll have a good perspective in this board. And I think she'll be able to navigate this really well. And so she is my nomination to fill the elections or appointment to fill the Elections Commission. And so, yeah, that's a little bit about why, but she'll be really good. I'm really excited.
Do we have any questions for Sadie in regards to this appointment? All right, do I see a motion for confirmation? I see a motion from Chris. Do I see a second? Second from Kevin. All right, and is there anyone who objects to moving towards a vote for confirmation? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and get that posted in the Teams. All right, so that vote is now posted to the Teams here. Do you agree with the president's nomination? Yes, if you do agree. No, if you do not believe this person should be appointed, and maybe. Oh, maybe will count as abstain for the purposes of this vote. You know, it's offered as a suggestion every time, so I'm honestly surprised this doesn't happen before. Yes, Chris?
That last vacant seat on the commission?
It is. And a reminder, this does require a 4/5 vote to pass. However, seeing it at 93% currently, not worried on that. Yeah, a reminder, if you are voting maybe, or in this case abstain, that it does take you out of the poll here. All right. And we're about 32 responses. Are all of them valid? All right. Is there anyone else? Oh, I just saw another vote pop in. I'll allow 15 more seconds on this vote, but then we'll look to close. All right, not seeing any more votes roll in. Is there anyone else who needs to vote on this matter that has not yet done so? Seeing none, we will go ahead and close this poll. And with a vote of 32 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and 2 abstentions, this motion clearly passes. Catherine is officially nominated to the Elections Commission. And Student Senate now has a proper body to administer its general election this spring. So yes, let's get another round of applause for that. And a thank you to our student body president for making sure that got filled. All right, and so now we'll move on to the next item on our agenda, Senate Bill 2353. Oh yes, and also you, Sam, sorry for that regard. Yeah, Sam has been doing a lot of searching for that as well. All right, so now we'll go on to the next item on our agenda here, 23-53, a bill to fund the KU concrete canoe. And who do we have presenting that? All right, right over here, lovely. And I saw an email for your presentation, Elizabeth. Do you need me to go ahead and drop that in the Teams for you?
Yes, however I can access it on here would be great.
All right, I will go ahead and get that done.
Is it okay if I start passing these around?
Of course, yeah.
Okay.
And I'll go ahead and get the presentation up for you as you do that.
I'm so sorry. Oh, man, yeah.
Thank you so much for getting this.
Of course, no problem. Right.
5 minutes or?
Do you need it?
I mean, I guess
I
maybe.
generally
say-
provide 2, but yeah, we can go for 5.
We could do 2.
No,
Whatever.
I mean, you're not in Senate, so you know what, I'm literally a little kind in regards to that. All right, so now that's up and just, yeah, I guess tab along.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
All right, if everyone could provide their attention to our speaker, Elizabeth, you'll have 5 minutes for your presentation.
Hi, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Apple. I'm a junior in the Civil Engineering Department at KU, and I'm the co-captain of this year's concrete canoe team. So if you get your hands on those cylinders that are passing around, those are test cylinders that we use to test the compressive and tensile strength of our mixes. They're pretty fun. They're kind of dusty. Warning, might have to wipe your hands off afterwards. But this is our mission statement. I won't read through it word for word, but basically what we do is this picture of us mixing, a picture of the canoe from 2019 called the Fog, a picture of us compressively testing our cylinders. We make a boat out of concrete. We make concrete float and we race it against other schools in the region at a national competition that happens every year that KU has not been able to attend for the last 2 or 3 years due to pandemic-induced chaos. So this year we're coming back. This is some of the pictures from the 80s of our team. So it's, we have a long history of being a really strong chapter in the region. Our goals this year are to compete in the spring, create a strong class of underclassmen, and create that foundation for growth via having like solid storage, good materials, everything moving forward, transition documents, a SharePoint, all that good stuff. This is our current expense report, excluding what we've asked for from the Student Senate. So as you can see, like we've gotten a significant amount of funding from other sources. But in the context of building a concrete canoe, that emergency fund is a dangerously small number. Hence our request from the Student Senate to bolster our supplies and make sure that we have quality product to present at the symposium in April. So here's the state of affairs. The picture on the right is like the back rooms. It's terrifying. I hate it there. It's like 10 degrees. But that's the current concrete canoe storage room that's shared with every other club in the civil department. It's chaotic. We don't have sufficient storage bins. We don't have good looking burlap or anything like that. Hence our request. This is our history in the region. So despite all that chaos, we have been doing pretty good, and we think we can do even better moving forward. what do we do in terms of like reasons for funding for KU? There's a lot of leadership opportunities. We have a lot of underclassmen taking on roles in design build competitions, mixed design, structural analysis, all that good engineering stuff. But on top of that, just general project management that's good for any degree. We promote KU's reputation in the region, which has been lacking. And we also can make more concrete cylinders and canoes with your funding. So thank you very much. And do you have any questions?
Thank you very much. And I see a question from Chris. And
Constituency.
yes, please.
Christopher Rathel, Associate Senator for Finance. How did you get that one cylinder so light?
So the gray one is super heavy. Other ones super light. Gray, typical concrete, sand and gravel, glass beads, Aaron Trainer, high air content, all that good stuff. Just chemistry.
Thank you.
Of course. All right. And is there any other question or are there any other questions? Motion for 2-minute extension? Oh, we still have 2 minutes. Yes. All right.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Could you state your name and Senate constituency or title?
My name's Camden. I don't have a constituency. Elizabeth, can you tell us a little bit about who you've competed against and who you've beaten in these competitions?
Yeah, so we compete against Iowa State, Iowa, Mizzou, Missouri S&T, K-State, Dordt University, and a few other miscellaneous schools. In the past, looking at these rankings, we historically beat K-State. Obviously, without a canoe, we could not do that. But this year, it's hosted at Manhattan, so we have to beat them this year.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all I have. Thank you.
All right. And are there any other questions from the floor here? All right, seeing none. Thank you very much, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
All right, and with that, do I see a motion to vote on this bill? All right, I see a motion from Blake. Do I have a second? I see a second from Jaden. All right, is there anyone who objects to moving towards a vote on this legislation? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and get that vote into the channel. All right. All right, that poll is now open in the Students Assembly channel. Vote yes if you'd like to approve this legislation, no if you would not, and abstain to stay out of the discussion.
I know.
All right, I still see some votes rolling in. I'll look to close this vote in about 30 seconds here. All right, so our new quorum is actually going to be 28 for tonight since we added our new replacement senators. And so we're looking for 2 more votes for each quorum on this matter. So please get in your vote if you haven't already. All right, is there anyone who has not yet voted on this matter that has the ability to do so? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close this vote. And with a vote of 32 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and 0 abstentions, this bill clearly passes. All right, and so we will now go ahead and move on to the next. All right, so we will now go on and move on to the next item on our agenda, a bill to fund Jayhawk Motorsports. And who do we have presenting that legislation? Lovely. And what was your name? Brooke, all right. And would you like me to get the legislation up for you?
Yes,
So you can go
please,
over
yeah.
it? Lovely. There we go.
Awesome, thank you so much.
No problem. How much time do you need?
5 minutes, please. Yes. I think this is the wrong one. Yeah, the one I submitted is retired.
Retired?
Yeah.
Is this the one we have on record for Jayhawk?
Okay. Is Turner here talking about?
Is Turner here? All right. Turner, could you help us? So they're saying the bill was only submitted for tires? It is.
Okay.
Does it need amendments?
No, sorry. Okay.
Hmm? Yeah.
Okay.
All right, can I get a motion to move this down to the bottom of our regular agenda? I see a motion from Josepha. I see a second from Evan. All right. And is there anyone who objects to moving Senate Bill 23-55 to the bottom of our agenda? Thank goodness. All right, so that is officially amended. And so we'll go ahead and move to Senate Bill 2023-50, a bill to fund the University of Kansas Phi Alpha Delta chapter, presented by Blake. Lovely. All right, and it should be Senate Bill 50 in that tab there. So to your left.
Amazing.
And how
Okay.
much time will you need?
3 minutes.
3 minutes?
2 minutes, really, 2.
Okay. All right, everyone, if we can give attention to the presenter here. All right, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Awesome.
All right, excellent. Good evening, everybody. I'll keep it short and sweet. So basically, I am the current treasurer of the University of Kansas chapter Phi Alpha Delta. What Phi Alpha Delta is, it's a pre-law organization here at the University of Kansas. Unlike its namesake, which would kind of suggest that it's a fraternity, it's open to anybody who wants to join. And we function as a pre-law preparation organization, as a resource, providing helpful guidance to pre-law students and students interested in law school. This evening, this body actually has a unique opportunity to fund a crucial resource provided to KU students in Phi Alpha Delta, because the University of Kansas actually does not, like in its current format, have a standalone or independent pre-law advising program or advisors. So we kind of step in and fill that gap as a crucial role and resource for pre-law students and students interested in law school. And it's a much needed, resource and allocation of funds because, we literally have one of the only two American Bar Associated approved law schools right down the block here on our campus. So I urge everybody here to vote yes on this funding, as this provides the means for Phi Alpha Delta to serve as a resource needed to students and crucial to students. And it provides the ability for us to continue to host biweekly meetings to do just that. And I can take any questions now.
Could you also scroll down to the actual funding so that
Yes.
folks can review that as well?
There you go.
Brilliant. All right, are there any questions for Blake? All right, seeing none, thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
All right, and now moving on, do I see a motion to vote on this legislation? I see a motion from Jaden. Do I see a second? I see a second from Nicole. All right, is there anyone who objects to voting on this legislation as currently iterated? Seeing none, we will go ahead and have that poll posted in the Teams. All right, and do you approve Senate Bill 23-50? All right, that has now been posted in the Student Senate Teams. Do you approve Senate Bill 23-50? Yes, if you do, no, if you do not, and abstain to stay out of the discussion. I'll let that poll run for about a minute and a half. Could I also have Colin Campbell and Austin Christ come up to the front of the room if you are in the room?
The record shows Jimmy Buffett. Gene Burger.
Is there anyone who has not yet voted on this matter that has the ability to do so? All right. Oh, I'm seeing votes move, so I'll allow another 30 seconds for this poll. All right, is there anyone else who has not yet voted on this matter that has the ability to do so? Seeing none, I will move to close this poll. And with a vote of 30 in the affirmative, 2 in the negative, and 0 abstentions, this bill clearly passes. All right, and I see a motion from Turner. All right, do I see a second? All right, second from Chris. All right, is there anyone who objects to moving this student group's bill to the top? Please say no. All right. Well, with that, this motion clearly passes. Jayhawk Motorsports has now moved to the top of the agenda, and you'll have 5 minutes for your presentation. Of course. And is the bill correct now as it is? All right, love it.
Okay, hi guys. I have to sincerely apologize. I had no idea how this thing worked, so that was totally my fault. But I have some items that I'd like to pass around today. Jayhawk, I'll go ahead and pass these out. But Jayhawk Motorsports is the student organization at the University of Kansas. I'm in the mechanical engineering department. All of the items you can pass around. Okay, so all of these items that I'm passing around are just failed parts and components of our vehicles that we have iterated and changed to become better engineers. So one of the components you'll see is a black steel A-arm that broke when one of our chains broke on our vehicle. We build combustion vehicles and bent the steel A-arm very badly. You also see another air bottle that we use for shifting that fell out of our vehicle and was dragging on the ground behind it. So we had to create a whole new holder system to hold it into the car. You see a retaining ring for our gears in our electric vehicle that was completely destroyed from a mishap. And then you also see a couple mounts for our suspension components. One of them was made improperly and completely exploded in our vehicle during one of our races. And you see another one that we made on the fly at that race, made out of just steel components that we found laying on the ground. So basically what we do, we're a group of mechanical engineering students. It's mechanical engineering capstone and an organization on campus open to all students. We design and build race cars and race them every single spring. We have one race this May. It'll be at the Michigan International Speedway. And we have another race in June for our electric vehicle. It'll also be at the Michigan International Speedway. We routinely place top 10% in these competitions. We race against hundreds of teams from all over the world. We have teams from Germany, Brazil, Mexico, Canada, all over the place that we race against. And we routinely get top 10 or better. So yeah, this week I'm asking for some steel tripod inserts, engine and half shafts for our drivetrain materials for our vehicle. Obviously, a combustion vehicle can't run without an engine or using any of our drivetrain materials. And so we really need the funding for this in order to have a running vehicle for the spring. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions for Brooke? From Camden?
I'm gonna ask you the same question I asked the canoe people. Who do you compete against and who do you beat?
We compete against Mizzou, K-State, Missouri S&T, Texas A&M, UTA, Texas Arlington, all kinds of schools from all over the US, and we beat all of them. We beat Mizzou, we beat K-State. Yeah, we're number one. Any other questions?
Any other questions for our presenter? All right, seeing none, thank you for taking the time to present this.
Thank you so much.
All right, and now do I see a motion to vote on this legislation? I see a motion from Blake. Do I see a second? Second from Jaden. All right, is there anyone else who objects to this vote? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and get that posted in the Students Assembly channel. All right, that vote is now in the channel. As usual, yes, no abstain, no maybes this time for your voting options. And I'll let this poll run for about a minute and a half. All right, is there anyone who has not yet voted on this matter that wishes to do so? Currently only seeing 29 votes with an average of 32. So, oh, there are the votes. So we'll go ahead and let this run for another 30 seconds and hopefully we'll have those regular votes in.
Oh, okay, yeah.
All right, last call for any final votes on Senate Bill 55. Seeing no objections, I'll move to close this vote. And with a vote of 32 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and 0 abstentions, this motion passes unanimously. All right, yes,
If I can motion to go to committee of the whole.
all right. Can you get a mic so that we can get that on record? All right,
I like to motion to go to committee of the whole to discuss a time-sensitive resolution,
all righty. And could you specify the resolution?
like give you like the gist of what.
Yeah, give a summary of the resolution so we know what we're going into committee
Yeah.
of the whole for.
Has to do with finances and the exec board trip to Washington DC.
All righty. And is there anyone who seconds that? Austin? All right, and do we have any objections to moving into committee of the whole? All right, seeing none, we are now in committee of the whole. And Blake, if you can go ahead and come up and present that legislation.
Do you have the mouse for up here? Yeah.
Under there.
Okay. Cool. Is it pulled up?
Well, I haven't received it. It was submitted in the general.
Okay, is that noticeable for everybody?
Blow it up.
Give it a little bit.
Ow, my leg. You can just mute things. Yeah.
400%, that works. Okay. Am I good?
Yeah.
Okay. So summary of this bill. KU student executive staff is taking a trip to DC in late February without any prior expressed approval from the full assembly. They're spending thousands of dollars in student fee money without consulting the full assembly or finance council first. The exec staff is failing to give specifics as to the necessity of this trip, what they're going to do there, and how much it's going to cost. So whereas the University of Kansas Student Senate executive staff's use of student fee money to go on a trip to Washington, D.C., while providing little public information regarding said trip is egregious and irresponsible. It is also concerning that this trip had been barely discussed with the full assembly, and particularly the finance council, before the executive staff decided to go on it. Whereas questions should be asked about this egregious use of funds at a time where student fee money is thin and logistical funding for practical issues such as buses, recycling, and beyond sit on the back burner, the exec staff and the student body president would rather use student fees, which are already being raised next year, to fund a personal networking trip to Washington, D.C., using funds stashed in a nebulous travel account that has never been expounded upon. And whereas I strongly condemn this discrete use of funding without prior consent of a student assembly, and when we cannot even raise wages for students, we can't fully fund transportation, and we no longer have recycling services and cannot properly fund other services on campus. If the administration truly cares about fiscal responsibility and student fee money, it would not feel necessary to go through with this trip. Therefore, be it resolved that the full assembly of the University of Kansas Student Senate condemn the executive staff and student body president for failing to inadequately inform those in the assembly of this trip, failing to ask for input from the assembly regarding what should be brought up to those being spoken to in DC. Therefore, be it further resolved that the assembly should immediately ask the executive staff to cancel this trip and all the accommodations already made to be refunded if they cannot provide a detailed list of where the allocated funds will go, the purpose of the trip, and the reason of the trip. Because it was planned discreetly. Therefore, be it further resolved that the assembly deserves an explanation as to why this trip was planned so discreetly without the involvement of the full student assembly.
All right, and would you like administrative response or would you like questions? Oh, Austin, perfect.
Hello, my name is Austin Stifler. I'm a junior class representative for Student Senate, student senator for the CLAS constituency. One thing I'd just like to say in summation is that I think it's important to understand not only fee entity logistics and how these funds are allocated, but also to have a deeper understanding of transparency and information about where this money goes. I think that the value of a trip, for instance, to DC is very important. I think that civic education and involvement in representation of KU at a national scale is something that is very important, and I don't think any of us disagree with that. I do think that providing information that all of us here in Student Assembly, whether a senator or someone who's attending the trip on exec, should be able to garner from this trip is important. I think that financial information being disclosed for the purpose of the trip and for the logistics of the trip are important, as well as reflections and takeaways and some type of platform to advocate or to gather information and connections with to help improve the university's standing and to help improve students' assembly and general student body understanding and civic participation is important as well. So essentially, in summation, I believe that the strong wording of this bill is prudent within the context of the fact that transparency and data analysis should be performed for trips like this, and the fact that we have not had a mention or any type of transparent disclosure of this trip is a bit concerning, and that's essentially the purpose of the resolution. Thank you.
For questions and further speeches, I would suggest that we move out of committee of the whole with this legislation so we can have a more formal discussion. Do I see any motions to move out of committee of the whole? I see a motion from Sadie. All right, and do I see a second? I see a second from Kevin. All right, is there anyone who objects to leaving committee of the whole with this legislation? All right, seeing none, we are now out of committee of the whole. Thank you for the bill presentation. Can I get a time extension for speakers now? Chris? 15 minutes. All right, second from Evan. All right, is there anyone who objects to 15 minutes for the question period of the speaker? All right, seeing none, that is approved. And Chris, you can go ahead and ask your question. Let me also get a list here of like who else is going to be asking questions so I can keep a firm record of that. All right, so Chris, I have your question. Is there anyone else who would have a question after Chris? Kevin, do you have a question? Yeah. All right, and anyone else? All right, I will, oh, and Sadie has a negative speech. All right. So let me get the timer up here. All right, Chris, you can go ahead and state your question.
My question is about the form of this bill. Why is it a resolution instead of a bill to prevent the staff from, or prevent the executive staff from using these funds?
Sure, I can take that. I don't think that there is necessarily like a total abstention necessary for either the funds or for the trip. However, I think that some type of financial disclosure would be relevant and prudent, hence the if clause that essentially states that, well, if we have information regarding the finances and logistics of, or maybe reflections of the trip, then this trip definitely has value. However, as it currently stands now, that does not exist. So therefore, we cannot gather information as a students' assembly to have that information be disclosed or presented.
May I be allowed to follow up?
Kevin, would you allow that? All right, Chris, you can do your follow-up.
I don't believe your presentation matches the tone of this bill. The bill says, or the resolution says
Sure.
that this is an egregious misuse of funds when we should be focusing our funds toward transportation and other issues. Yet you're saying that all you really
If you wanna
want
take that
is
one, yeah.
greater financial disclosure?
Well, I would invite the student body president to give explanation for the clarity on the funding. If the funding isn't necessarily, what this body would agree on to be a proper use of funds, then there's other places that this funding can be properly allocated.
May I respond? May I respond?
Yeah.
Could you respond in your
Yeah,
negative
so-
speech or,
Well, to answer the
oh,
question.
for a point of information?
Yeah,
All right,
it is disclosed. It's part of the Senate fee proposal. It's built into the student Senate fee. There is $5,000 this year that's allocated towards travel. It's for this and then a Big 12 conference in the fall, both of which executive staff attend. In the fall, Big 12, all executive staff members attend. In the spring, only some. That has been allocated every single year. It's presented in fee review every single year. And then that fee is then voted upon by this body. This year, that $5,000, usually in every other year, it's $10,000 allocated towards those expenses. It's to go meet with peer institutions in the fall, gain insight into what other student governments are doing and things like that. In the spring, it's to go and advocate on a federal level to those lobbies and things like that. What we're doing in Topeka, it's that at a federal level. And the $5,000 this year is a reduction of by 50%. It's because we made that last year, understanding that Big 12 wasn't going to be happening in the fall. And so we cut it by half to accommodate for this trip to happen in the spring still. It fully is voted on. It is not ever a hidden process or anything like that. And that's where it is. And so if you were not aware of that, then you can go back and into those hearings and the breakdowns, but that's the travel budget. It doesn't come from like an undisclosed source or anything. It's specifically for those things. So.
Yeah, go
point of information from Sam.
So in the exec staff meeting 2 weeks ago, I brought up the possibility of bringing them to the students assembly, asking them, hey, what kind of issues would you all like lobby for in DC? What matters to you? I was expressly told by Danae, our governmental director, that I should not do that. So I wanted to tell you all about this trip and let you give ideas and input into what we're doing.
Decorum, you can't name names.
Sorry.
Yes.
I'm told by
Yeah, thank you for that decorum motion, Sadie. And Kevin, your question?
I was just wondering, did you consult any of Studex, attend a Studex meeting, or ask them prior to motioning for committee of the whole, anything about this?
I did speak to particular members of the student executive board, yes.
All right, and Danae, did you have a question or was it an egg speech?
No, it was just a point of clarification on the comment that Sam had made. just
Oh, a
now.
point of information?
Point of information.
Yes.
So what I was telling Sam in that moment was not to bring it up because what?
Make sure to not name names. So
Okay.
titles.
Okay, chief of staff. Because the chief of staff had said, I'll bring it up to all of Senate. So because Baylor has certain plans for us, but we don't need to follow those plans. We can do what we want. So I stopped him and said, that's not true because it's not. Because we need to follow what Baylor has set out and planned because they are the hosts of it this year and we will be the hosts of it next year. And we would like that same respect dealt to us. So I stopped him and said, no, that we will follow what Baylor has asked and we will advocate for the same things for what they are asking that we advocate for. Yes, we can get students' opinions and who else's opinions. That's what I have been doing to know what we need, but we will be sticking to those advocacy points.
All right, any further questions for our presenters?
I have a general-ish point of inquiry, I suppose. Can I get a catch box?
So I want to know on the record, I don't necessarily have any dog in this fight. I'm just curious as to the fee disclosure, Sadie. It's my understanding that this travel budget was just built into the Student Senate activity fee, correct? Was there a specific line item within the Student Senate fee as presented fee last year that was like, hey, we're going to use this to go to DC or whatever? Because if it was there, I certainly missed it.
In the presentation that the former treasurer made to us, I don't think that it was broken down line by line, but like I do like it was clear to me whenever he was like making it and things like that, that's what that was for.
So to
And so
clarify,
I don't know, like I don't think on the presentation that it was fully out there, but yeah.
so to clarify then, for the average person that is not a peer review chair, so everyone in this room, other than Sadie and I, it was not directly stated that there are $10,000 reserved for this purpose. I'm just trying to figure out yes or no.
Can I make a point of information? I'm the treasurer on the
Yes.
budget book from last year. It says travel fund under the Senate budget. It's broken down line by line. It doesn't say Washington DC budget, but it says travel budget. Is that kind of what you're looking for?
Well, I'm curious about peer review because that's the only process that's like publicly commented on and voted on, to not at least in the same extent that the setting of the line by line Senate budget is.
All right, I think that this would be better served in terms of like speeches in regard to this like issue. So I think that we should go ahead and move on with that.
May I
Oh, do we
also-
have a point of information?
I also wanted to share a point of information because I appreciate where you're coming from and that you feel as if this trip was perhaps not as fully disclosed to the full body. I think we've lost a lot of our history with COVID and with lots of transition with Student Senate. But this is an annual event that Student Senate has been participating in for many years. It's, again, as Sadie mentioned, we've got the Big 12 conference that's typically happened in the fall semester, and then the lobbying efforts, the Big 12 student governments coming together to lobby in DC. This is tightly coordinated. Baylor is the host this year. It's tightly coordinated with the KU lobbying office. And so it would look incredibly bad for us as an institution, not just on Student Senate, but on us as the University of Kansas, if we backed out of our commitment at this point. I can't speak to what happened in StudX. Obviously, I'm not a part of StudX. However, the lobbying efforts are tightly coordinated. So the groups get together to decide what the key points are, because if you have lots of students going there advocating for different things, you lose the power of the group voice of Big 12. So this is in the budget for StudX. It has historically been for Senate Executive Committee. It's typically been there historically. I can't think of a year I've been involved in Student Senate where we did not participate in this, with the exception of the pandemic years.
Madam Vice President, may I respond? I feel like I was directly spoken to within that. May I respond?
I didn't hear any direct speak.
Well, she was talking about us as presenters. Is it possible I could just respond with a quick point?
Oh, well, they were just offering a point of information, but if you would like to respond with your own point,
Yeah.
then feel free.
Okay, like me and Austin talked about, our point necessarily wasn't that this trip should be canceled. It was the lack of clarity. I mean, we discussed that this is in the budget as Senate travel plans, but I would encourage the student body president to be transparent when she does come up here and give a speech and lay out in as much detail as she can where the funding is being allocated to, because all that we've heard to this point is just that it's in a general funding account, not specifically where the funding is going to go. So I think that's a problem with the transparency aspect of it, is that it's literally just funds. What are you spending the funds on? But that's all I have.
All right. Are there any more points of information and or questions in the room? All right. Thank you very much for your presentation here. We'll move on now to the negative speech we have on the floor from Student Body President Sadie Williams. Is there anyone else who has a negative or positive speech in relation to this legislation? All right, seeing none, Sadie, I'll give you the floor. How much time would you need to give the full breakdown? 5 minutes? A negative speech on, on the legislation? Okay. Positive speech, okay. Are you ready? Awesome.
So for historical context too, this same conversation came about my freshman year and things. It was under a different context then. It was a much more tense environment, believe it or not. And basically, like the question was like, why does the executive staff deserve to go over other people? Okay. And so I'm going to address that first. And then I'll get to the question raised by the previous speakers regarding transparency as well. And then lastly, kind of like explaining like rationale why, like breaking down what this trip actually is, what it means, and like how it's planned and all that stuff. Because as our advisor noted, there is a lot of logistics that go into it, and people have been working really hard on it, both with KU and outside of it. So I just wanted to give that kind of overview first. And so some context for this trip is, as it's been noted, now this is an annual like trip. And whenever it didn't happen in person over COVID, like my sophomore year, whenever I was on the other side of this, we still met online with like different representatives. It was still just the executive staff members. The reason for that is because the executive staff members are selected by the people who hired them, usually the student body president, vice president, and an advisor who's present for that discussion as well, and often the graduate student body president as well. For their ability to advocate for students and to understand Student Senate at a deeper level. It's often like people who have been in Student Senate for longer times or have experience outside of campus. And they're also paid for the work that they do. And the amount of work that you're expected to do leading up to this opportunity is extensive. And so it's been limited to that group historically. Whereas the State Higher Education Day has also usually been limited to the executive staff. But this year, obviously, it's not. I'm only noting that in an effort not to minimize this accusation, but to also elaborate the fact that like, genuinely from the bottom of my heart, my goal in this term and the reason why I ran is because I wanted to engage with senators more, because on my end of things, I always felt a little bit left out or like I wasn't listened to. And whenever we did DC and things like that, there wasn't any preparation whenever I was a sophomore and no one was there to support. And so my goal was to make it as fair as possible. And in my eyes, and from my perception, that was still maintaining the DC trip to the executive staff, but opening it up to applications. And so not basing it off of the positions that they have, any of us hold or anything like that, that the executive staff held, basing it off of what do you bring to the team? How are you going to contribute to this dynamic? And what are you going to present to like the representatives who are elected and the senators who are elected in that role? That was the entire method followed. And that's for me, where like I was very strong on that stance of once it was clear we couldn't bring everyone, of like making it sure that everyone had a fair shot. So like the same applications and all that stuff. And so no positions were taken into consideration in those decisions. And I'm very content with the individuals that we do have going. And I'm very looking forward to, should we be given the opportunity to like represent KU at that level. In terms of the financial transparency that was called for, it is in our travel fund within Student Senate. It's the only thing we travel to. I think that's why it's not broken down line by line. It's not like a thing of like, oh, we're ashamed of this. Oh, we don't want you to know anything like that. It's literally because the only two things that Student Senate does is Big 12 in the fall and traveling to DC in the spring. That's the only reason why it's not broken down. We can certainly break it down this year. It just hasn't been done in the past. I don't think it was anticipated that it would be a sticking point at all, because it has just been such precedent, something that happens every single year pre-COVID. The treasurer from last year is from that era as well. And I'm like halfway, I guess. And so I also didn't see the need because it just made sense. We can certainly break it down more, but it was never out of the intent to hide anything from you all. And so in terms of transparency, like it's genuinely the only two cases that we travel like ever in Senate. So that's why it's not like we do a bunch of things. It's just that. And then on to kind of like what I want to talk about with you all as well is just, this is really hard. Like, I just want to be like straight with you guys. Like, this is really hard. And the executive staff that we have and like the people who are in leadership in our Student Senate and all of you, I am genuinely very proud of those individuals, and it's not because of the work they've done or anything like that. And I think it's excellent, but people genuinely care, and no one's out to get anyone among leadership or anything like that. No one, and all the conversations, no one was trying to hide any of this from any of you. And so I really don't appreciate nor understand, based upon prior conversations and relationships, the tone in which this was taken towards you all. But I really just want to implore, like, it's not from a place of shielding this from you all or anything like that. Like Danae noted, like we were going to bring it like forward and like hash it out and like, what do you all want to see advocated for and things like that. Like we're talking about tabling and a bunch of other stuff as well. But this is just at the end of February. And right now we're in the middle of FEE, and next week is State Higher Education Day. And that's kind of how it got lost, I think. But like, it's still like in the works, actively have plans to do so, but it's just not, I don't know. It just doesn't feel to me fair.
Can I get a motion to extend speakers time? Yes?
I thank the student body president for her speech. I believe this is a misinformed, misleading, and embarrassing piece of legislation. I move to postpone indefinitely. I
Oh.
second that.
Second from Kevin. All right. Do I hear an objection from a voting member? All right, yes. All right, well, a motion has been properly moved and seconded in regards to postponing this legislation indefinitely. And so in that regard, we will move to a vote on the matter. Thank you very much, Sadie, for your presentation. Sorry that it was cut short. Yeah. All right, and can we go ahead and get that in the channel? Or you have a lot of minutes to catch up on. Would you like me to? Okay. All right, and do you approve postponing the? Huh?
Yeah, I got the press involved.
I think it might be able to take it.
All right. If we can stop the side talk for a second here, the motion is now up. Do you approve postponing this resolution indefinitely? Yes, if you do, no, if you do not, and abstain to stay out of the discussion. And I'll let this vote run for about 2 minutes. For postponement, I am double checking before I give you an answer. It should be simple majority, yes, but I want to make sure I'm giving the correct answer. All right, yes, it does require just a simple majority. Has everyone voted on this matter that wishes to do so and has the ability to do so? All right, seeing no objections, I'll move to close this poll. And with a vote of 9 in the affirmative, 20 in the negative, and 2 abstentions, this motion clearly fails. All right. And so now we'll go on and move on to the positive speech we have on the floor, which is from our chief of staff. And how much time do you need? About 5 minutes? I'm going to get 5 minutes probably on the rest of this, and then we can extend time as we wish.
Hey, everybody. So first, I'd like to make clear the funding for this was not directly delineated and specified in the fee review. It is a general travel fund. Also, during conversations with the specific person I cannot name, it was expressed that because they're going on this trip, because they already had the money saved up because they didn't go on Big 12 this year because it was here. Also, I will mention that in the negative speech, there was zero explanation for what this trip actually is doing. What is happening? What, Chris, I'm speaking. Okay? You can't do that. The quorum.
All right, let me address that. Please do not speak out of turn and allow the speaker to finish their presentation. Thank you.
What is the lobbying for? What are they lobbying for? Student mental health and college affordability. Are they going to get any of that done? Do you think that this Congress right now is actually going to do any of that? Or do you think that they all want to go to DC, spend tens of thousands of student fee money dollars to, hang out and network with people? I went to this Big 12 conference. I will tell you, the muster of the people there at that conference, they are not in it for the student body. They're not in it for their students. I actually saw the the Houston president say, I hate my student senate. I don't trust these people at all. Not the executive staff, the Big 12 student governments, the other ones. Nick Medencia, the external VP and the person who is organizing this conference, literally posted on Instagram, I believe that Washington, D.C. should be used as a conduit for God. These people are religious free. Sorry, the religion is cool. I love religion.
Decorum, please.
Baylor is an institution that is created to advocate for theocracy and for a Christian America that does not have room for people with other religions. I genuinely believe that. I don't think we should be working with these other student governments. I don't think that they carry forward the values of the University of Kansas. I don't think we should be spending all this student fee money, especially when we have the buses are a wreck. CAPS is underfunded. There's hundreds of students that are waiting right now for mental health guidance and stuff at this school. Recycling is gone. They gave you no information as to why they're going on this trip, no idea as to the necessity of the experience, any idea or input. The student body president said that she's here because she wants to work for the students, right? She wants to get the input of students. Why was it not asked then what y'all think we should do and what we should lobby for? I effectively resign as Chief of Staff of the University of Kansas Student Senate, effective immediately.
I accept your resignation.
Any questions for Sam? All right, seeing none. Thank you for your time, Sam.
Thank you.
All right, do we have any more speeches on this matter? Danae, do you have a negative speech? And will you need like 5 minutes as well? I'll put 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
All right.
Sorry.
All right. And Sam, thank you for your service to the Student Senate.
Thank you. It's been an honor to serve you all. I sincerely mean that. And it really has been, this has been a wonderful senior year. And I feel like I've done a lot helping you all, helping the student body be better. And I'm look back on this experience with deep gratitude. So I seriously mean it. Stay with this activity, stay with public service. Y'all are amazing for showing up on Wednesday nights, coming out and spending time. You do not have to be here. So it means a lot. And I won't grandstand any longer. Thank you all.
Thank you. All right, Danae, you'll have 5 minutes.
Okay. First of all, I would just like to start by saying the former chief of staff came up here and said that he doesn't like the Big 12. He doesn't think that we should associate ourselves with them, that all the other student senates have, they are just in it for all wrong reasons, but that doesn't mean that we are. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't be a part of this group, and we should set the standard higher, which I believe is what we do. That's what when we hosted Big 12 this year, that's what we advocated for. We had a talk with all the other schools beforehand where we said, the Big 12, we can be pretty nasty to each other. We have a tendency to be nasty to each other. Let's try to change that narrative. Let's change that towards each other. So first of all, to address what that was said there is that's no reason that we shouldn't be a part of this, because the fact of the matter is we are a part of the Big 12 conference. That's who we are. So we're going to have to associate ourselves with these people. So we might as well learn how to figure out and how to work with them, rather than just being like, they're bad people, we shouldn't be around them, because that just doesn't make sense in the real world. The other thing that the former chief of staff said was that this trip does nothing. What are we advocating for? We're advocating for mental health and affordability. Like I said previously, I cautioned Sam of bringing it up I cautioned the chief of staff of bringing it up because at that point, we weren't sure what we were doing. We weren't sure who all would be going, what people we would be taking. At that point, previously, we thought we would be able to take all the executive staff and at least one senator. So we wanted to get the full Senate Assembly involved. But again, at that point, our advisors had told us differently. So I had cautioned him against bringing it up because we weren't sure exactly what was happening there. The other point that the former chief of staff brought up was that us going there isn't going to do anything. However, I think the complete contrary to that. Every little bit of advocacy that we can do is important and it has meaning. If we just say, oh, these people are high up there, they're not going to listen to us, let's just not go. That's ridiculous. If we get the chance to put ourselves in the room with these people, then we need to take that opportunity and take it for all that it's given for. So and some work that I've already done, and the people here are people in our administration, the students, they want us to go there. They want us to advocate. Yesterday, I met with the director of the mental health clinic that we have on campus that's run by graduate students. She applauded us for the work that we're doing and the work and the advocacy that we're going to do in the future, and was so grateful that this could lead to higher funding for them because they're desperate for more funding. They need it to be able to go on and serve our students who are our constituents. I also next week have planned to meet with the director of CAPS and the director of student resources. So our advisors, our administrators, and our fellow students want us to go to this and want us to be in the same room with these powerful people if it will give us the opportunity for more funding. And secondly, also, again, with working with the Big 12, Baylor, the reason why they wanted us to all advocate for the same things is because Baylor wants us to all go in as a Big 12 united, connected, advocating for the same things, so that then the result would be all of these senators, all of these representatives would see all these students from all these different universities. Okay, if they're advocating for the same things, then this must have meaning. And that is true. So they're going to see it. And sure, maybe it might not be this year that they give us so much more funding, but it leads them to think differently and to make and to add to make change in the future, to give us more funding or give us other resources that we could use.
All right, we have a minute left on the floor. Do we have any questions? All right, I see a question back here. And could you make sure to state your name and constituency?
Hi, I'm Lena Mose. I'm with the Latin American Student Union. I'm just curious about the points of advocacy, just to clarify. Were those agreed upon, I guess, within the Big 12 at the point in time in which the previous chief of staff asked about, consulting the General Student Senate?
Yeah, so he could have taken that opportunity when all of the Big 12 schools were here for the Big 12 conference that we hosted. Baylor brought it up during their presentation. They put up a QR code and they said, hey, fill this out. We want to take suggestions on what you all want to advocate for as a Big 12 conference. And so if the former chief of staff had any ideas that differed from college affordability or mental health, he was a prime member and had a prime opportunity to take advantage of that.
All right. If there are no other questions on the floor, that is the end of speakers' time.
Oh, sorry. I needed to make one more comment, if that's okay.
Do we have a motion to extend speakers' time? I see a motion from Kevin. And Austin, do you second that? All right. And anyone who objects to a 5-minute extension of speaker time? Blake objects. All right. And so with that, we will now move on to a vote on this motion. Do you approve time extension for 5 minutes? Danae, you can go ahead and be seated until we get the results of the motion. All right, that vote is now up. Yes, if you would like to extend speakers' time. No, if you would not. And Abstain to stay out of the discussion. All right, we currently have 25 responses. If you have not yet gotten in your response, please do so now. I'll allow about a minute and a half for this vote to continue. We do need a total of 28 before we can proceed. We are still waiting on one more vote before we reach quorum. All right. As I am not currently seeing any votes. Oh, there we go, finally. All right, and are all of the votes verifiable? Can you check the last vote so we make sure? Is there anyone who has not yet voted on this matter that wishes to do so? Going once, going twice. All right, so I'm going to move to close this vote. And with a vote of, oh, there we go. With a vote of 12 in the affirmative, 13 in the negative, and 5 abstentions, this motion to extend speaker's time clearly fails. All right, do we have any other speakers on the resolution? This would have to be a positive speech. All right. Motion to vote. Oh, Danae?
I just had a point of information because the thing that I needed to say is very crucial to this and it's super quick. So
Start admitting the vote. I'm out. I don't have an opinion.
Seems you might. All right. For your point of information, I'm going to have to deny it. Because so like what is the scale of the point of information if I can determine the veracity? Because there's been a lot of points of information in this meeting that have led to opinions, and so I just want to make sure.
it's factual of historical student senate activity historically around this, and it goes off of also what our advisor said earlier.
All right, I'll allow it.
Okay, so also when Baylor hosted the Big 12 Student Government Conference, exactly the same thing that we hosted here, we did not attend that when Baylor hosted it. So now when they're hosting the Big 12 on the Hill, if we do not attend as well to that as well, it looks very poorly upon us as a university to the Big 12 conference as a whole. And And also,
Sorry, this is getting into an opinion, so I'm gonna have to stop you right there.
this is a fact. When we
Well,
hosted the Big 12.
that it looks
Okay.
poorly is an opinion. I'm sorry, Danae. All right, so any other things? I see a motion from Blake. Huh? Is it an actual point of information? All right, what is? Okay, go ahead and state it and we'll determine. I mean, didn't you motion to vote? Is there a second or?
There wasn't a second.
No, you cannot.
So I guess my point of information will be, there's a lot of conversation about how this is such a historic process. But how can the full student assembly know that it's a historic process if the student assembly wasn't informed of the process?
That is a question. Okay, that's a rhetorical question rather.
Question, not a
Yes.
statement, yes.
All right, well, still not a point of information, so please. All right, so do I see the motion to vote? Second from him? Oh. Point of inquiry? Yes. Well, you don't need to rescind your motion. I can verify the point of inquiry.
Do I need to like say my constituency and all that?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'm Emma Atherton. I'm the All Scholarship Hall Council representative. Question, like the resolution itself is just asking for like a line by line breakdown of the budget, right? Like it's not saying that they can't go if it fails or passes. It's just saying if they want to go, they need to give us a line by line explanation, right?
Is that correct, Blake? Yeah. So you're just trying to determine what the point of the resolution passing would be. Alrighty.
So specifically in this resolution itself, in this condemnation bill, there's a if clause, and that basically grants permission for their trip as a student body approval if they provide the information that was requested in this resolution.
No, please. Okay. Well, that's what I was about to state. Yeah, so a resolution actually has no legal impact of like what happens in student senate. It has to be an actual bill to have like that tangential effect.
Yes, I understand that.
Yes, and so the resolution would just be a statement and would not have any effect
Okay.
in that regard.
Yeah, I motion to vote.
All right. Second, well, I'm keeping Kevin's first and then Evan's second. All right. And is there anyone who objects to moving to a vote on this legislation? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All right. So do you approve the resolution? Or say committee of the whole resolution? All right, that poll is now posted in the chat. Do you approve this resolution? All right, I'll let this go for about another minute and a half. We still need 2 more votes to reach quorum. All right, is there anyone who has not yet voted? Oh, yep, seeing votes still roll in. I'll give another 30 seconds. No, I want to have, okay. Can all of the newly acclimated senators from this meeting please come up here so I can add you to the student senate teams? I'm sorry, I thought that was done previously. Oh, did you put that up? Oh, yes. So we'll go ahead. About how it would be. Well, did you vote on team? Other than that, it should be easy to vote. No. Not that. Yeah, so sorry. All right, so what is it? All right, is there anyone else who has not voted on this matter that wishes to do so? And all of the other votes are verifiable, yes? Can you check the last few ones that rolled in? Ah, brilliant. Any objection? All right, seeing none, I will close this vote. And with a vote of 14 in the affirmative, 18 in the negative, and 3 abstentions, this bill clearly fails. All right, so now we will go ahead and move on to the next item on our agenda, which will be Senate Bill 23-56, a bill to amend the Constitution to create exemptions for mock trial and Model UN for travel funding. Could I have Turner, are you in the room? Could you present this bill to explain why these exemptions need to be put into the Constitution? And how many minutes would you like? Perfect. All right, and it'll be Senate Bill 2023-56.
Do I do that up here?
We're just gonna go.
All right, Alessia, can I start?
Yes.
All right, everyone. So the reason that we need to implement these exemptions is that in our funding guidelines in the Constitution, you cannot pay for travel items via line funding or general funding. But through the way that our block funding works, there's a whole lot of back end rules in the university that restrict what funding can be used for what. So last year, the previous treasurer put mock trial, I believe it was mock trial on block funding. But to be block funding, you need to have a departmental sponsor, and they did not have a departmental sponsor. He put them on block funding, which is used for, groups that are sponsored by a department, so they could use it for travel items to go to conferences, to go to competitions. But they did not have a department to sponsor them, so it was pretty much illegal by the university. But how we can get around this is if we put mock trial and Model UN on line funding, and then add exemptions for them, because groups like this deserve to go to conferences. They deserve to represent our university at these competitions as well. But it's just a back end. It's like an accounting thing that we have to get around. But I think it's my opinion, and I hope it's yours, that we should send, really cool organizations like Mock Trial and Model UN to these competitions. And the only way to do this is if we add this exemption. So right now, for those that are really in tune with the budget code, general funding and line funding cannot pay for travel. This exemption just states that the mock trial and model UN will be able to pay for travel with their line and general funding. I know the funding process is complicated and I'm not always the best at explaining things. So if anyone has questions, I can hopefully clear them up.
Do we have any questions? Sorry, do we have any questions on the floor? I do need a time extension though. All right, motion from Angela, 5 minutes. Do I see a second? Second from Chris. All right, is there anyone who objects to an extension to speaker's time? All right, seeing none, time is extended. And I do see a question back there. And could you get the catch box?
This is a point of information.
Okay.
I'm the treasurer for mock trial, so if anyone has specific questions about what the funding is used for or what we do, I just want to say I can answer them.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Thank you for that.
We do not go trips.
All right. Is there another question on the floor? All right, seeing none, do I see a motion to vote? All right, I see a motion from Jaden, second from Blake. All right, is there anyone who objects to moving to a vote on this matter? All right, seeing none, we will move to a vote. Do you approve Senate Bill 23-56?
Thanks, Turner.
Thank you, Turner. Oh, and Zachariah, are you here? Oh, could you bring him back in so you can present the EOF? 23-56. Yes, after we vote. All right, so that vote has now been posted on the Assembly channel. Do you approve 23-56? Yes, if you do. No, if you do not, and abstain to stay out of the discussion. It does require a 2/3 vote to pass as it is a constitutional amendment. For those who are walking in, we have started voting on Senate Bill 23-56, so please get those in. All right, is there anyone who has not yet voted on this matter that has the ability to do so? All right, seeing none, I will close this vote. And with a vote of 29 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and 1 abstention, this motion passes unanimously. All right, now we'll move on to the next item on our agenda, which is Senate Bill 23-57, a bill to amend the Senate EOF Advisory Board guidelines. Zachariah, how much time do you need? 3 minutes? All right. You have the floor when you're ready. And yeah, it'll be 57 on the top of the screen there.
Yeah, how do I go to it? Is it?
Yeah, well, the keyboard.
Yeah.
Yep, there you go.
50 left. Yeah, perfect. So, so this bill, phenomenal bill. So the EOF Advisory Board, I think I've come up here and given the spiel about it before. We're getting ready to kick off, and there are a couple of little minuscule things in the Constitution that we thought needed to be changed. The first, the most important one was the chair of it was social justice chair, which nothing against Josefa, phenomenal person. But we just thought that it'd be much more reasonable for the fund development director who's in charge of really helping out in terms of coordinating with the SILT director to help lead that initiative. You're still there, Josefa. You're so awesome. And then just a couple of other things in terms of getting rid of some defunct items. So all this section 7 and section 8 is really inapplicable and is in regards to concepts and scholarships that are past or one-time use and never implemented. And then the last thing is there's this addition right here highlighted. I know you guys can't see it, it's in green, so it's a bit dark, but what it indicates is that it makes the responsibility of whoever the EOF chair is to follow up within that spring semester, which at times hasn't happened. So it comes into the fall and the EOF board, the EOF recipients don't know where their funding is. And so it's just a quick procedural fix. But aside from that, those are all the changes necessary into the EOF constitutional clause.
All right, any questions, Kevin?
What's the boss?
Oh, one's coming from the back of the room. Oh, here we got one.
Yes, again, Kevin, freshman student senator. So as far as the article in green, I would just like to clarify, you are taking away the responsibility of the EOF director to inform the people that they got their application and just have the other.
What do you mean by the EOF? In terms of, it was never sort of the chair of the committee that, sorry, I don't want to interrupt you. Is it cool?
No, it's fine.
Yeah, so just a quick clarification. So the way the EOF has sort of been constructed is the EOF chair works alongside obviously the people on the board to go ahead and designate it. Now, those findings are often never ever communicated with, the varying individuals on the varying recipients, right? And so I know what you mean by EOF director, if you mean by the sort of the chair of the committee. In that sort of context, there never was sort of a requirement for them to communicate with recipients, but now that clause is instituted, and so what we don't have is come fall, those EOF recipients don't know where their funding is. I think it's a pretty simple procedural fix, but it just more so makes it an action item that after committee ends, you need to go and tell these recipients that they got their funding. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that does. I'm sorry for.
No, you're good. You're awesome.
All right, any other questions? Motion to vote? Do I see a motion? Motion from Trey. Do I see a second? I see a second from Blake. All right, do we have any objections to moving towards a vote on this matter? All right, seeing none, we will move to a vote. Do you approve Senate Bill 2023-57? Thank you very much, Zachariah. All right, the poll has now been posted. Do you agree with Senate Bill 2023-57? Yes, if you do. No, if you do not. Abstain, stay out of the discussion. As with the last piece of legislation, this does also require 2/3 to pass. I also add another point of information in terms of student senate history. This board has been passed around for the past 2 years to a variety of positions. It was originally held under the student body president and then given to the director of social justice, then given to the chair of social justice, and now in this legislation is going to the fund development director. So let us all hope that this is the final position that this is coming to in terms of a responsibility. All right, still need 2 votes to reach quorum. And although this is the last piece of legislation on the agenda that you all have, we do have at the last point of our regular agenda, an officer report from our treasurer and our finance council chair that was pushed down to the bottom. So where that, oh, Camden left. Oh, I guess no officer report. Yeah, after we finish this vote, that'll be perfectly fine. All right, we are still seeking one more vote to pass this amendment.
True. We worked very hard tonight. If there's one thing Sam could have done this. Yeah, no.
Do we have anyone who's going to be making a vocal vote? Otherwise, we will call quorum and read the entire roster. All right. Since we don't currently have quorum, I will ask the Internal Affairs Director to call the entire roster of senators. All right. Oh, gosh. Yeah, late night. All right. Yeah, I'll go ahead and read the record. Sadie, can you take over minutes? Okay. All right. We're waiting on one more vote.
Has anyone not voted?
Who has not voted?
As soon as.
Okay, can you state your name and so we can get a voting record? Yes. Constituency Associate Senator for Social Justice. Perfect. All right, and yes. All right. All right, we currently have the votes. All right, so I'm going to move to close this vote. And with a vote of 28 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and 0 abstentions, this motion clearly passes. Motion to adjourn. Do I see a second? All right, any objections? All right, we are officially adjourned. Thank you for your service tonight. Are you okay? Baby? Okay, let me turn off the stream so we're good.